Hello, this is Stephen at shortseasongarden.com. I'm here to talk about controlling weeds without using herbicides. Weeds are a pretty big discourager to a new gardener, and it's important to get rid of the weeds because they're going to choke out the plants, rob the water, the nutrients, and the sunlight that they need. And especially here in Zone 3 in the north where we live, you've only got a short season to begin with, so those plants certainly don't need to be choked out at the start. And one of the ways you can do this is with a mulched raised bed. If you garden intensively, you plan and use every square inch and put 2 inches of mulch, it's going to choke out those weeds so they don't have a chance to grow. The problem with this is it has a pretty high initial cost, and you've got to do a lot of watering or else have an irrigation system, which is going to make the cost even higher. And in northern zones where we live, you can't put the mulch on too early because it keeps the soil cool, and it can even increase the risk of frost burn if you have a surprise frost. And now if you're going to start with a traditional garden, you need to start the previous fall. You need to put down layers of cardboard or newspaper to rot the sod, or if you're going to go with a large garden, you really need a land plow with a tractor and then come back in the spring with a harrow. When you do plan your rows in the spring, follow the spacing on the seed packages. Don't leave extra space between the rows, just enough. Carrots don't need a very wide row. Squash needs a little more, quite a bit more, but just leave as much space as you need. And when the plants do come up, it's important to keep those weeds in check early in the season. It works best to weed when the ground is a little bit moist, not saturated, but a little bit moist. And those new plants can't compete with the weeds, so it's very important to keep those weeds in check while the plants are young. There's a lot of different specialty hoes. You want one with a handle that's long enough for you if you happen to be tall like I am. You need one that can get in close to the plants, and one that you can keep sharp with a file, because you want to be those young weeds, you can just slice them off under the surface. You don't even have to pull them by the roots, just slice them off. But you have to have a sharp hoe to do this. Now, if you have a larger garden, it's nice to have a small tiller to go between the rows. If you don't want to step out and purchase one, you can always rent one. Don't till too deeply. You're not trying to till the soil, you're just trying to cultivate it. In fact, some tillers actually have tines you can reverse that will allow you to cultivate instead of till. You can also use a wheel hoe. Some of them come with different attachments for weeding or for rowing. In this case here, we're rowing. It doesn't work real well in rocky soil, so we're having a bit of a problem here because we do have quite rocky soil. It works best in loam, but here we're hilling up some corn and some beans and some potatoes. You can also flame your weeds with a weed dragon or a weed torch. And again, this is most effective on young weeds that don't have established roots. It's a good idea to use a flamer like this on something that's slow germinating, like carrots, just before they're going to germinate. If you flame all the weeds, that'll give those carrots a fighting chance when they come through the soil. Here we're weeding between rows of peas. Now, if you don't keep your weeds in check, this is what you end up with, nasty, nasty weeds. And it takes work down on your hands and knees with a specialized tool like this dandelion weeding tool. And it's quite a chore. You've got to get down there and get all those weeds out right by the roots. And you'll see here that you get some pretty nasty roots on this dandelion plant here. See, those roots are nasty. Okay, we've got some plantain here. It's got nasty roots and a lot of nasty weeds. So it's best to get the weeds while they're young. Don't wait until they get to this stage, because then it's a lot of work and it takes the fun out of weeding. Whatever you do, don't let your weeds go to seed. When you see flowers, you know seeds aren't far behind. And did you know that one dandelion plant has an average of 15,000 seeds? So it's important to get those weeds while they're young. It's much easier. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video on controlling weeds without herbicides. If you have, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and then go to shortseasongarden.com for more ideas on gardening in the Zone 3 in the north.